Hello, my name is Lindsay Andrews, and I am the VP of Scientific Engagement at Juul Labs. Today, I will provide a high-level summary of the US FDA's Premarket Tobacco Product Application, or PMTA, process. The Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act, known in the US as the TCA, is the federal legislation which granted FDA jurisdiction over consumer tobacco products. The TCA was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Barack Obama in 2009. The TCA gives the FDA authority to regulate tobacco products, including establishing product standards, mandating health warnings, and other regulatory powers. Following passage of the TCA, the FDA set up a new center within the agency, the Center for Tobacco Products, to oversee these efforts. Importantly, the TCA also established the PMTA process for all new tobacco products introduced into the US market after 2007. The PMTA is a science and evidence-based process to assess a product's public health impact. The FDA deemed or included e-cigarettes under its jurisdiction in 2016, following federal litigation challenging the FDA's jurisdiction over e-cigarettes under the TCA. In short, a federal court determined e-cigarettes qualified as tobacco products under the TCA because the nicotine used in e-cigarettes is derived from tobacco. At that point in time, there were already a large number of e-cigarette products currently on the US market. So FDA exercised its enforcement discretion to allow those products already on the market as of August 2016 to continue being sold while companies prepared their PMTA applications. Tasked with these new regulatory powers under the TCA, in 2017, FDA introduced their landmark Comprehensive Plan for Tobacco and Nicotine Regulation. The plan is anchored in the concept of harm reduction, in the idea that nicotine is delivered on a continuum of risk. The idea here is that combustible cigarettes, which burn tobacco on the left side of the continuum, are the highest risk form of nicotine delivery. And nicotine delivery without combustion, like nicotine replacement therapy on the right, presents significantly lower risk. The conceptual framework for this continuum of risk was co-authored by Mitch Zeller, the current director of the Center for Tobacco Products, and is a widely recognized concept today. Former FDA Commissioner Gottlieb, along with Director Zeller, made it clear that nicotine is not the primary source of harm when they said, nicotine, though not benign, is not directly responsible for the tobacco-caused cancer, lung disease, and heart disease that kill hundreds of thousands of Americans each year. So while nicotine is addictive and can itself be harmful in terms of health effects, the larger concern is how that nicotine is being delivered. The agency's plan is to move those smokers who would not otherwise quit down the continuum of risk to less harmful alternatives. To do so, it is important that smokers have a number of alternatives to choose from, and that is where PMTA authorization of non-combustible alternatives comes into play. To successfully receive authorization under the PMTA, a manufacturer must demonstrate that their product is, quote, appropriate for the protection of public health. The PMTA is extremely rigorous. In general, a manufacturer must demonstrate 4 core components to meet this standard. And I would note that these 4 components are not a summary of FDA's guidance, but rather reflect Juul Labs' understanding and interpretation of the overall requirements. So first, a manufacturer must demonstrate that they have a controlled design and repeatable manufacturing process, which means that they have clear specifications and know how to make the product at scale and at consistent quality. The second element a manufacturer must demonstrate is a risk reduction compared to continued smoking. Here, the agency is looking for a substantial reduction in toxicant exposure and individual health risk versus continued smoking of combustible cigarettes. The third thing the manufacturer must demonstrate is the ability to actually convert smokers to the new product. There have been many products that were terrific, reduced risk alternatives to cigarettes, but they did not have widespread smoker appeal or adoption, perhaps as a result of insufficient nicotine delivery or difficulty of use, and thus resulted in minimal positive population level impact. And finally, a manufacturer must assess the overall population impact of marketing their products. This necessarily entails addressing any unintended consequences to the overall population. Here is where underage use, and particularly prevention efforts, are crucially important. Under the TCA, the FDA has authority to impose sales and distribution requirements aimed at ensuring responsible marketing. The FDA has asked all manufacturers to provide detailed plans for preventing underage use and has provided extensive guidance on expectations. The PMTA review and authorization is a multi-step process. Here I have laid out the various stages. Once submitted, it starts with initial acceptance and filing of an application, which the agency determines is sufficiently complete to permit a more substantive review. Once filed, submission moves into the most comprehensive phase of scientific review. The agency then determines if marketing of the product is appropriate for the protection of public health, at which point the product can be formally authorized. All PMTAs for e-cigarettes were due in September of 2020, and the agency is under a court order to make decisions by September of this year. However, the FDA does have enforcement discretion on a case-by-case basis to keep products with applications pending review on the market. And then even when a marketing decision is made, the review and oversight process is not done. All authorized products must continue to meet the standard of being appropriate for the protection of public health and are subject to extensive post-market reporting requirements, including sales and marketing data, adverse events, and adherence to any sales and distribution requirements required by the agency. And on that note, here are some examples of the very specific recommended restrictions on labeling, advertising, and promotion that the FDA has provided through guidance or other PMTA marketing orders. In terms of content to reduce the appeal to youth in marketing, the agency wants manufacturers to avoid the use of imagery and themes known to resonate with youth, such as aspirational content depicting tobacco use as cool, attractive, rebellious, or risky. The agency also advised against the use of bright, bold, cheerful designs and colors, which can influence youth product choices. In sum, labeling, advertising, marketing, promotional materials should be clearly tailored to appeal to adult tobacco users. The FDA also wants to see detailed marketing plans that specify demographic characteristics that reflect a manufacturer's intended targeted audience, as well as actions to restrict youth access and limit youth exposure. As you can see, PMTA is a very thorough scientific process to ensure that any new tobacco products entering the US market are indeed appropriate for the protection of public health. Thank you, and I would welcome any questions that you have to lindsay.andrews@juul.com. Thank you.